Boom. All right. Hey folks, Gene Galin here with Eric Andrews. What are we doing here sitting out here in the middle of Pittsburgh on the SoCo patio? Baking. But we have water, so we're all ready. I've got the 365 Whole Foods, and you've got he gave me the good stuff. I gave him the good stuff. Hey, they're coming. Why are we here? Because the Californians are coming. Actually, what happened is last week I posted on the Chatham Facebook page. Eric had done, actually 2 years ago, back in 2020, he had done a YouTube video on why are all the Californians coming to Chatham County. And we got over 2,000 people looked at it. It got shared, and we got dozens of comments on it. It seemed to have hit a chord. And I've known Eric for a long time, dozens of years. Yes. Yeah, it's been that long. But I've got him out here. We're on the SoCo property. What's going on? Is California taking over Chatham County? Why are they coming now? On that video, you mentioned they're like the top 5 on the demographics as the people come in.
Well,
so what's going on?
So that was interesting. A couple of years ago, we looked at the demographics, and of course,
I know you can speak louder than that.
Okay, well,
you don't have to shout.
All right, but Wake County was number 1. Orange County was number 2. Then Mecklenburg County was number 3.
Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte. And then we saw fourth place was Orange County, and I thought it was a mistake because of the repetition, but it was Orange County, California.
Okay. And you made some remarks. That came out 2 years ago. So in the last 2 years, what have you seen? Are we still getting a bunch of people coming in here from California?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you said you just got an email from one of our clients. We had a 3-acre tract. It was a couple out of Santa Barbara, California. Okay. And they were just amazed that you could buy 3 acres for that price, and they're excited about building a home and being in Chatham County, just a few miles south of Pittsboro. But one of the things that we see, you guys know that the average price home in parts of California right now, we're at like 1.2, 1.4 million, and these are homes that a few years ago were picked up for like, after the crash, for like 450, 600,000, and so they have all this equity. They have almost like $800,000 to $1 million worth of equity, and then they come here and they find these big mansions that you can pick up for 650, 800,000, and so a lot of the time they're actually cash buyers. We're seeing cash buyers have a huge percentage. Like for the longest time, for decades, cash buyers fluctuated between 7 and 8% of buyers, but then the COVID's happened, and we saw those buyers jump to like 16%. I just did my demographics last week. So far in Chatham County, 35.9% cash. So that's a lot of cash coming into the area. And that's not just California. That's the entire West Coast, Northeast, and what we call halfbacks, the people that moved to Florida, and now they've come halfway back to North Carolina.
But those are people that move from Jersey, New York down to Florida.
Yep. Then they find out it's too hot, too many hurricanes, and North Carolina is where it's at.
Yeah, plus it's green.
That's why the biggest comment I get is they're blown away with how green. That's something we take for granted,
right.
But people out west, people out in California, they just can't believe how green Chatham County, North Carolina is.
And how are the folks that have started moving in from California, how are they adjusting? Because one of the things you mentioned on that video is we worry about commute times. My daughter lives here in Pittsboro and drives to Siler City to work for the school there, and she's like, oh my gosh, Dad, that's so far. And like, no, you're just down 64, but the folks from California, that's nothing.
Yeah, well, we find, first of all, when we tell them, it's a 45-minute to an hour commute to like RDU or RTP or whatever, they really say that's nothing. But they also say there's 2 kinds of commutes. There's the I'm going 10 miles in an hour, or I'm moving. And we're less frustrated if we're moving, but if you're in that bumper to bumper, and 64 has a lot more traffic than it used to, but you're moving.
Right. So folks, and the thing is, you mentioned, I think, that some of these folks may have considered living in the city of Raleigh, but have been finding that they prefer to move to Chatham, and besides the fact that you can get land and at the prices, that seems to be a big thing.
That's one of the big things. The things we always joke around in my office is a 2x4 costs the same in Cary as it does in Pittsburgh. Those are the same. They're the same price or whatever. But what we do have cheaper is land, and so a lot of us in Chatham County don't think of a 1-acre lot being big, but that's 5 or 6 times the size of a Cary lot. So it is a different lifestyle.
Yeah, so instead of living on a quarter acre where you look out your bathroom and you can see in your neighbor's bathroom, out here, and actually the lot that I live on has a restrictive covenant where I have to keep a tree line along the perimeter of it.
Buffer. Yep.
And I've got the smallest lot on our development, which is just 2 acres, but for somebody from California, that's like, holy cow.
Right, big difference.
You mentioned cash buyers. For somebody who's not aware, what's the difference between a cash buyer and a credit buyer? What's the advantage for the buyer, the seller? What's the advantage for you selling a property?
Well, I mean, the biggest difference is appraisals. And I was fortunate. I had a meeting with the head of the North Carolina Appraisal Board, and one of the things he said, real estate agents are supposed to know the market now.
Right.
Appraisers look at what the market used to be, so they're going in the past. And when it's an escalating market, we have difficulty with appraisals. And so, for good or for bad, and this is hurting some of the locals or whatever, when the Californians come in and they see a house for $650,000 and they want it, and the realtor might have based their comps on that and hoping that it would appraise at $650, but the California buyer can come in at $750, $725, and if it doesn't appraise, they can make up the deficiency with cash, so they're a lot more solid. Or if they're a cash buyer, they're not worried about an appraisal. So that really gives them a competitive advantage. One of the things we joke around all the time is, at the end of the day, the seller's getting cash either way. If you get a loan, the seller's getting cash, and if you bring cash, the seller's getting cash. If it's a wire or whatever, that the same funds are going to the seller. So it doesn't make a huge difference in the seller, other than it's usually a much smoother transaction, and we don't have to worry about, because that appraisal, people say the appraisal's for the buyer, but the appraisal's really for the loan, the mortgage holder, the lender, right? And so, because they're making sure that they have good collateral. So, they're going to be tight. They're going to make sure that they're not stretching it too much. But if someone has cash, they're just not worried about that.
So that deal that you had just sealed for the 3 acres to the Santa Barbara couple, you said that went through pretty quick because it was a cash deal.
It was cash. It was cash. Well, and that's an interesting thing about land is there are very few lending institutions that will allow you to borrow money on land. I mean, if you buy a cutesy half-acre lot in Chapel Ridge, you might find a lender for that. But if you're looking to buy like 3 acres or 10 acres or 100 acres, it has to be cash. Very, very few lenders will do that. But yeah, these people were able to come in strong and close in like a week to 10 days. So the seller was very happy.
All right. You mentioned locals. I've got kids. My house is paid for, so I don't worry about it. Actually, I was talking to somebody yesterday. What's out there for young buyers in the late 20s, early 30s? Nothing. Are you shaking your head because that's what it is?
It really is nothing. I mean, so if we look at the average family income in this area, call it $58,000, $60,000, and in order for them to get a loan, they're going to have to be in the $200,000 to $250,000. We literally don't have anything in that price range. It's extremely rare to find anything less than $500,000 right now. I mean, very rare, very rare. I mean, I think our average is it's just gone up immensely in the last several months.
Yeah, I think at the Chamber of Commerce briefing that they had on the economy here in Chatham County, Greg Stafford, who happens to own SoCo, brought up the fact that you can find something large. There's also apparently subsidized housing that's available out there, but it's that middle chunk that there doesn't seem to be a product out there for those folks.
No, there's not. And so, it all comes down to the land prices and the density, and we desperately need, because people talk about affordable housing, but Greg mentioned at that meeting workforce housing, right. And I think that's super important. I mean, a family income of $60,000, that's the average, and we can't find anything for the average. So the lower income is suffering. The residential rentals have really gone up a bunch too. Those are skyrocketing, so that puts an extra stress on them. But if we're looking at the average new construction right now being between $650,000 and $800,000, so you're looking at $150,000 to $200,000 of family income, and people are like, oh well, Apple's here, they all make $150,000. It's just so that rare. That type of income is very rare. Right,
and even one of the questions we had discussed, because I actually had the question, and that's why I'm looking at something bad. I mean, Vinfast is the Vietnamese electric vehicle company that's coming here, and they had that announcement. And I think they stated their average salary over there is going to be about $56,000. So right. What do those people do? And it's not like they can move into Wake County, because you said people are moving in from Wake County. They're also moving in from Durham County and Orange County, from Chapel Hill. So right now we're like the lowest cost in the area. But you're saying, you know, 400 to 600,000. You've got to be earning. What can somebody who's making $60K a year buy? I mean,
between 180 and 240.
180 and 240, and that you just can't find.
It just doesn't exist. It does not exist right now.
Now we're on the east side of Chatham and Pittsboro. You also have the west side, which is Siler City, a little bit different.
Well, you know, you talk about the Vinfast workers and where they're going to work. I mean, it really is like that. We call it a half crescent right there. It's like Siler City, Goldston, and Sanford. Already, I mean, Siler City is bad. Like Siler City was suffering, had lower prices and everything. There are no great deals in Siler City now. I mean, they're pretty. It's not as high as Pittsboro, but there are much higher prices in Siler City right now. Goldston is the new secret that's out. Goldston has several subdivisions that I think they have a 91 or a 94 lot subdivision that's up for approval right now. I mean, just these few subdivisions in Goldston is going to double the population of Goldston.
Well, that's true.
And then Sanford used to be the deal. Sanford used to be like 30% cheaper than Pittsburgh. I sold a bunch of houses to teachers and policemen and firemen and all sorts of different municipal workers. And we used to sell them in Sanford all the time because Sanford was 30% cheaper. Sanford's not cheaper anymore.
Well, let's ask, one of the questions we had is what do you see as the view for 2022? Let me jump back. I think it was 2008. You were dealing with a development up towards more towards North Chatham, and I remember you had an auction over at the Chatham Mills.
Oh yeah.
And that's when the market crashed, and I think you were auctioning stuff off at like half of what it was.
And getting no bids.
No bids, right? No bids. That means nobody was interested, even at that price.
Yeah, this was the Chapel Ridge subdivision,
yes,
which we have an office in the Chapel Ridge subdivision. Chapel Ridge is doing phenomenally well right now. But you know, those lots were picked up when the subdivision first started. They were picked up for like 80 to 150, and like we didn't know how bad it was. We were in the midst of the crash, but we didn't know that we were in the midst of the crash. I listed 26 lots for auction. And I was starting my bid prices at half. I was starting them around 40 or 50, and I was getting no bids. I mean, it was just dead. It was the most uncomfortable time because I had to go through 26 of those, and it was dead air, dead air, dead air. We ended up selling 3 of them, but I mean, those lots went down to less than 30. We sold lots in Chapel Ridge for $16,000 and $18,000.
And that was after that auction, because there were a bunch of people at that auction. I remember,
but most of them were selling.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was uncomfortable. I was sweating.
It was very unusual because up to that point, before the crash, it was a hot market. And the thing about Eric, and I've known Eric for years, is Eric survived the markets up and down. So you are always there managing to help people out, because come on, there's some real estate agents, when the market's good, they go in there and they sell. Anybody can sell.
Well, and we got that now. I mean, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of inexperienced agents that are in right now and everything. You know, when the COVID happened, a lot of people decided to do something different. They thought real estate was easy. They go to real estate. But you know, it was interesting. After like 2008, 2009, in like 2010, if another agent called me, I automatically knew that was a good agent because they had survived the grand culling. You know, they made it through the bad times, and so you knew it was a good agent.
Yeah, Eric supported the paper big time. Actually, thanks to Eric and Greg Stafford, who did advertising in the print version, we were able to incorporate color for the first time. Our print run went up 1,000, and we had lots of sports pictures of kids, which I know the kids enjoyed doing it. So thank you for Eric for doing that, and for Greg. Let's go back to that Vinfast. What's been the impact of it? And the other thing, let me preclude that. I have heard that the impact of that may affect Lee County and Sanford more than it may affect us. So what's your take on the Vinfast announcement? It's going in Moncure. I hear the North Carolina Railroad is planning to put a depot stop there, or a ramp, so they can load the cars onto it. Was it UPS is going to settle in close to that? Is there anything? What's going on with Vinfast and that whole deal?
Well, I mean, there's so much that's going on. Well, so it's Chet Mann is the mayor, and he stopped by the office the other day, and you know, he was a big part of getting. So Chatham County doesn't have municipal sewer. That's one of the biggest impediments that we have for development and for getting housing. And so Pittsboro has it, Galin has it, Siler City has it, but that's really it. And everything else that you see around is some kind of private system. So Chatham County and Moncure were able to work out an agreement for Sanford to extend their lines up into there. So it is going to, and so, you know, when you have that line extension, then you can have stuff, you know, budding off of that. So I do think it could have, because of US 1 and because Sanford's like the closest spot that has municipal sewer and available land with sewer, that probably, Sanford probably will have the biggest impact. I mean, we have Holly Springs and Apex right up the road, but those are going to be higher prices. It could have a big impact on Moncure. We don't have a whole lot approved in Moncure right now. We did have a rather large subdivision approved a couple months ago, but that's with a spray system. They have their own private system. So yeah, we're seeing, I mean, we're literally in just a few months' time, we're seeing land prices almost double in Moncure. It's been incredible.
Hey, let's take a quick break. I just want to check the video to make sure it's going well. Have a sip of water, and I just want to check to make sure we are working. Yep, that's good. Looking good. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. And let people know that this is going on. We got a lot of good information, and my backup camera's working well. Folks, this is the first time we're trying this out. If this works out, maybe I can convince Eric to come out here maybe every couple of weeks. Neat thing about this, if you haven't been out to this property yet, I think they're having an event the third Thursday. The Circle Merchants Association is having an event out here. I think they're going to have a band out here. They may have a food truck. Don't have information about it, but I mean, you can't beat the view. And
fantastic.
It is. And as I told Eric, I may need to talk to the county fire marshal, see if we can't blow off some fireworks on the church parking lot, so you can get some great pictures of fireworks over the courthouse. Vinfast, you mentioned county sewer. We don't have it in the county. What's that mean for somebody that's wanting to buy, an individual wanting to buy property in the county? What's the minimum lot size? What kind of things they have to do? You know, does the land perk, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, that is a huge, that's one of the biggest things. We don't have the best soils throughout Chatham County. What you want is that red, crumbly dirt. If we look at the 64 corridor between Pittsboro and Siler City, that's some of the best dirt in the county. But if it doesn't have that, you want to make sure that you have adequate soils. We have a lot of spray and drip systems. They're engineered systems. These are septic systems that can start at 25, 50 grand. So that makes a big impact on what you're building. A normal conventional system with that good red crumbly soil is like $6,000 to $8,000. So it has a huge impact on the people that are building. But one of the most important things is to evaluate soils. If we have municipal water, if we have some kind of county water or city water, then the minimum lot size is 40,000 square feet. But if we don't have that, if you need a private well, then the minimum lot size is 1.5 acres. So that's a pretty big lot size compared to some other places.
Yeah, and actually I was on the water board, and one of the things, and I don't know if their policies have changed, but on the water board, the policy was we would extend water lines to where it made financial sense. So you didn't want to run the county water system at a loss.
Right.
Now there were some health concerns, as you mentioned, towards the Galin, where they just had, even the wells had a hard time pumping out water.
Yeah.
So that water board at that time did approve some water going in there.
Sometimes you have to. They make you tap on. If your home is with X amount of feet of a water line, you don't have the option of a well. You have to tap on.
Right, and that's to cover the cost of pulling that line. And as you said, I know you've probably been on construction sites where they've actually used dynamite to break up the rock.
Yeah, we have in North Chatham we have quite a bit of rock, and when you look around the Deep River and the Rocky River, you know, you would think next to a river you wouldn't have problems, but those are some of the most difficult wells in the entire county. Sometimes we have to go 5, 6, even 700 feet deep before we hit water when we get next to the Rocky River.
What's a standard size well depth?
Throughout the county, I'd give us an average of like 300 feet deep and probably like about 3 gallons per minute. We get concerned when you get below 1.5 gallons per minute. Then you're gonna, a family of 4 or a family of 5 might have a little bit of trouble. You're going to need some kind of reserve tank or cistern if you go below 1.5 gallons per minute.
Gotcha. And if I'm having to dig a well at 600 feet versus 300, is the cost going to be almost double?
Yeah. Yep.
So
yep.
That is a consideration. Let's see what the next question is. We've been seeing this happening for the last few months, an inching up of the interest rates.
Yeah.
They're still lower. Actually, I think when we bought our house a bunch of years ago, the interest rate was around 12%. It's nothing close to that right now, but it has been going up. So what's the deal with that?
Well, I remember. So when I first started in this, interest rates were like 7 or 8%, and they crept up to like 9.5% and 10%. And I started crying and whining about it. And this old mentor, he's since passed and everything, Baxter Rigsby, he was a great guy.
Baxter
and he came across the street and he used to sit down and give us pep talks. And he's like, "What's wrong, boy?" And I was like, "Well, interest rates are like 10% now." And he's like, "Yeah, I sold real estate when it was 18.99%."
It was like 82 or something.
He said, "Now that's real selling."
Right.
Yeah. But right now, it's not having an impact. One of the reasons why it's not having an impact is because people are still locked.
Right.
Well, that's not going to last forever.
Well, when you say locked, what do you mean?
So they did this back before the interest rates went up, but they were locked in. So they had an agreement with the bank that if they got their contract on a house and they bought it, they were locked into that older rate.
All right.
But those are expiring pretty quickly right now, and so we are seeing increases.
How long do those usually, when you lock something in, how long does that last?
60 to 90
days.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but the other thing that we're seeing right now, and we had a sales meeting about this in my office yesterday, is that the construction, there's a lot of construction delays. Like you're waiting on your windows, you're waiting on your shingles, you're waiting on the county to come out and inspect it and pass you to the, they come in and check the electrical and you want to go to the next stage and everything. And there's all these delays because of scheduling and because of people not being able to get their product. And so, they're looking to close on that house. Some of these things are getting delayed like 10, 12, even 15 months. And that's going to be a whole different interest rate,
Well, this property that we're sitting on, actually, I think Greg was hoping to get this finished off in December.
Yeah.
And I know Havoc, who's going to be setting up the brewery, they're waiting for their equipment for the brewery.
Right. Yeah. Big delays there. Yeah. Yeah. So, and
is it just equipment, or is it also manpower and construction workers?
I haven't seen a problem with manpower and construction workers. I have seen a problem with they're just all the builders are so, like if you meet with a builder right now, and say you want to build something, you're way back. I mean, it could be 12 to 24 months before they'll even get started on it.
Okay, so if I bought a piece of property, let's take the couple moving in from Santa Barbara. We don't know what their name is. So they basically bought that property, 3 acres. If they will reach out to a builder, so they realistically speaking, we're 2022, mid 22. They probably wouldn't be able to start on that till mid 2023.
I'd say 2024 if they went with a builder right now.
Okay.
But that particular company met with a modular home company in Sanford, so they're gonna be okay. I mean, their stuff's online, and they'll probably be living in it in 8 to 10 months.
Now, when you say modular home, what's the current definition of modular home? Because modular home, we're gonna let this truck pass by. That's one of the things that happens when you're live. Right, so what's the current definition of modular homes? Because modular homes mean different things to different people depending on where they grew up and when they grew up.
So a modular home is built to North Carolina building standards, and the manufactured home is built to federal HUD standards. And so modular home is a slightly higher standard of building. It's built in sections in ideal conditions. It's built in a warehouse. A lot of people like the fact that it hasn't been exposed to the elements like a stick-built home has. They cut corners. They're less per square foot. I mean, you're somewhere between 150 and 100 or 225 for a stick-built square foot right now, and a modular is probably going to be in the $100 to $130 range right now. So you definitely get more for the money. The interesting thing is when people sell, and they sell a modular, they want those stick-built prices when they sell, but I was like, well, you got it for cheaper, it's going to sell for cheaper too. There's some very, very well-built modular homes. There are some modular homes that are better than stick-built homes, and a lot of banks consider log homes modular homes, so there's different definitions.
So a modular home compared to manufactured, I might think of a single wide or a double wide. Right. Is a modular home more of you bring the house out in parts?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's usually higher quality parts than a manufactured home. A manufactured home right now is probably going to be in like the $60 to $75 range right now.
All right. And what's Chatham County's permitting or zoning regulations concerning manufactured and modular homes?
If it's as long as there's no covenants or deed restrictions on it, you can put those pretty much anywhere.
Okay, so you folks heard that here first. You might have heard it somewhere else first, but you heard it here first. Well, okay, we talked a little bit about 2022, but the question I have here is, how do you think the real estate market will be throughout the rest of the year for the next 6 months? Let's look a little short term.
Right. Well, I mean, I will have to say that
you will have to say
that in the last few months, or excuse me, the last couple of years, I've been wrong. I mean, when
oh, great.
I know.
People might as well stop watching. Eric's been wrong, but look, if he's wrong, bet against him, and then you might win. So,
well, my point is, when the COVID's first hit, you know, when we shut down our office in March of 2020, right? That's when everything hit the fan.
Right, exactly.
And
how'd that 2 weeks go?
Right, and because I really thought that the market was going to crash, and 2020 ended up being our best year ever, and I was like, okay, well, you know, that was just an anomaly. There's no way 2021 will be better, okay? And 2021 was significantly better. We were in shock, and then I was like, all right, well, this is not sustainable, you know, 2022. And thus far, 2022 is really on par. I mean, because of January and February, we're ahead. The first 2 months that I had that were less than the previous year were March and April, but they were barely below 2021. And 2021 was record numbers and everything. So, I mean, here are the facts. There is a limited supply of inventory.
Right.
There are still people moving here. I mean, I think prices and appreciation are, I don't see prices, like, there's so many people that are waiting for prices to drop. It's not, I can tell you that's not going to happen in 2022.
Actually, that was going to be a question, because based upon what we've talked about, I've talked with other folks. I mean, 2008, boom, you said, hey, it's 50% or less.
Right.
Based upon the inventory and based upon people moving into, because this is one of the top 10 states for people moving in from other states.
Yeah.
You don't see that happening.
Right.
But you could be wrong.
I could be. I mean,
but,
you know, I mean, there are things that, you know, what if inflation goes super crazy? What if people get laid off? You know, right now there's a shortage of workers. I mean, wages are going up. They're not going up with inflation, but they're going up. And so I think we're really solid for 2022. I don't think like our numbers are going to be greater than 2021, but it's only because there's less stuff for sale. It's not because people aren't wanting to move here, and it's not because prices are going down. I really expect a mid-range percentage of prices going up, probably in like the 5 to 8% for the year.
And you got people knocking on your door looking to buy stuff. Do you have people knocking on your door looking to sell stuff?
I mean, yes and no. You know, I mean, we have a lot of curious people right now.
Okay.
And so what's really fascinating about that is when they call and I say, you know, and I go out there and meet them and I say, all right, your house is worth $550,000. Well, they're blown away. Can't believe it. Oh, I only bought this for $285,000. I can't believe it's $550,000. I'm like, great. What if I mess up and sell this? Where are you going to go? Because it's not just your house that went up to $550,000. All the houses have gone up.
Right.
You know, and so that is one of the sticks and the spokes right now. That's what's keeping us from moving along. And the same thing with land. You know, I tell them what the land's worth. I am getting every now and then, this is a little bit more, where, you know, a piece of land that they bought a few years ago was $300,000. I come in all proud and tell them it's worth $700,000. They're like, yeah, I wanted $2 million. I was like, well, you're not getting $2 million. But, you know, there's some people that have some unrealistic expectations, but I have not had any trouble getting listings this year or last year. I think the social media has helped. I think our name getting out there. But I mean, I listed 9 houses this week. That's an incredible number, and I've listed another half dozen pieces of land. That's a really high number for me. I mean, my staff is not happy with me right now.
Yeah, there may be other reasons they're not happy with you for, but 9 houses. Out of those 9 houses, do you have a general idea what the lowest priced house was and the highest priced house was?
The lowest priced house was a single wide on 3 acres for $150. The highest priced house was a house on the Wake County, Chatham County line on 12 acres for $2.3 million.
All right,
that's quite the range.
I was going to say, if you're looking for something under 200K, you may want to call Eric after this and say, hey, I want to go take a look at that. Single wide on 3 acres for 150, and then you had the 12 acres near the, and that was with a house on it too, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
And
like
that
a
was
3,000 square foot home.
3,000 square foot home. So, you know, if
that's a huge range. That's really the guardrails right there.
Yeah, but that's what you have in this county.
That's what we have in this county, right? That's one of the things I love about Moncure is Moncure actually has the $800,000 house that's next door to the $100,000 single wide. I mean, it's that kind of place right now.
All right, let's see what other questions I have here. Oh, great, my thing is getting blinded by the sun. We talked about the marketplace. Yeah, let's talk about. Well, we got 2 more questions left in here. You talked about the buyers. Most of them are coming. You did the demographics, but you also have a lot of folks from outside the country who are buying here too, aren't you?
We do. We have a surprising amount of international clients. The majority of them, I'd say, are Asian. We have a lot of investors that are Asian right now. But yeah, I mean, I can't believe it. I've had like 4 clients from South Africa in the last year. I mean, it's really become an international play. I mean, we know Raleigh because of Duke and Chapel Hill and biomedical and there's just genetics. There's so many international people, and these are not a whole lot of desperate people. These are people that are coming in with a lot of money.
Right.
They have great jobs. They're buying some of my most expensive properties. It's real important to be aware of the international market right now.
Well, let me ask you about that, because a few weeks ago in the News and Observer, you probably read this article, because my son put in for a bid on a home in the Charlotte area, and he got outbid by somebody by $30,000, and they put down cash. And then all of a sudden, the News and Observer on Monday has this article about investment firms and international firms buying those homes and renting them out. Are you running into a lot of that here in Chatham County?
I haven't seen any of that yet. Now, the residential rental market, there is a desperate need. Like, if you have something you want to rent, it can get rented so quick. There is a huge shortage of residential rentals. But I did read an article of, and this was a shocker to me, a whole subdivision of a couple hundred homes in Wilmington. And a company came from California or somewhere, and it wasn't international, but they bought the entire subdivision. They bought all the new construction, and these were not cheap homes.
Now, were these homes that were being built? Or
these are homes that were being built, and they went in and they bought the whole subdivision, and that whole subdivision is going to be rentals. So, I mean, there's a tug of war going on right now. I don't know. I worry about how that's going to shift things or whatever, and make homes more unaffordable for a lot more people, because there's a lot of big players getting into the residential rental market right now. And you know, we're used to that with multifamily and apartments, but we're not used to that with neighborhoods and homes. And you know, we have a generational difference too. One of the things, we sell homes to millennials, okay? I love my millennials. I'm not speaking disparagingly of them.
But, here comes the but.
Well, they don't realize what home ownership involves. They're like, wait a minute, who mows the lawn? You mow the lawn.
Isn't there an app for that?
Yeah, right. They're like, who cleans the gutters? What, I have to paint my house every 5 to 8 years? Seriously? You know, they're like, they don't, my hot water heater went out. What do? Doesn't somebody come and fix it? No, I mean, they don't have a full concept of what home ownership means and their expenses to it. And so I have to tell you, I have younger people with really, really good jobs that like renting and not having to deal with home ownership. The only thing I hate about that is they're burning that rent every month, and they're not building. I mean, that's one of the greatest ways to accumulate wealth is home equity, and they're missing out on that opportunity. But there's a disconnect there. Not all of them want that.
Well, let me ask you this a little bit more on the millennial question. If they're coming in and they're not considering the expenses and maybe even the taxes or anything? Is there sometimes you have to have a come to Jesus moment with them where saying, yeah, you could buy a house that's this, but you got to take into consideration you got these expenses and expenses and expenses. Maybe you should be looking at a house at this range.
We look at every buyer as a future seller, and we don't want to put them in a bad situation because they'll be mad at us. And we won't be on the list. So yeah, we definitely prepared them.
So do they ever call you up at night and say, Eric, I want you to come out and fix my water heater?
No, that's not it. But I do get calls all the time. Who do you recommend to fix?
All right. Well, maybe we need a Mr. Fix-It site here. And then I think the last one we're going to wrap up. We're getting close. We don't want this to run more than half an hour. And again, if you like it, send me an email, make a comment in this. This is on Facebook live stream. I'm also going to put this out on YouTube later on. And if it works out, we get more questions, we'll come out here and sit out in the sun and have some water. Because I'm enjoying this. We're tossing out a whole bunch of questions. This is not going to be edited, so I mean, this is going out the way it's going out. So all the mistakes, him all dressed up and nice, and me wearing shorts. All right. Chatham Park's down the road, X amount of miles. Downtown Pittsburgh. We're sitting right here on the SoCo patio. The question is Pittsburgh competing against Chatham Park?
Yeah, it is competing. But I mean, I'm a guy that believes, all ships rise with the tide, and we are riding coattails from these guys. I mean, there's a bunch that's happening. I mean, the rest of downtown is riding coattails off of SoCo. I mean, the investment that the Staffords have made in this corner is going to help everybody in downtown. But yeah, I mean, we are competitors. You can't replicate downtown Pittsburgh. I mean, it's not something you can't make an architectural rendering and come up with the historical significance, the courthouse, the older buildings. I mean, this is something that you can't do or whatever. But I mean, people like the national franchises and the different restaurants. Chatham Park is a beautiful product. I don't have anything against Chatham Park, but yeah, in some ways we do compete. I mean, this is a little bit more hometown. I mean, this is an amenity for Chatham Park, and we're lucky to have Chatham Park too. There are people that can do better shopping and more shopping. We're finally gonna have a hotel. I mean,
Hampton Inn, fall of next year.
Yeah. So I mean, there are trade-offs and everything. So I joke around, I was like, look, Chatham Parks might not necessarily be looking out for downtown Pittsburgh, but downtown Pittsburgh definitely benefits because of Chatham Park. And I mean, the beautiful thing too is if there's somebody that's looking at Chatham Park, SoCo's not in competition with that. We're a different product for sure. So I mean, I'm happy with both.
Yeah, but they had the pub crawl this past weekend, and I know the mod right over around the corner was involved, but the House of Hops up the road was involved in it too, and I think a couple other places. So it's not just, and I know the brewery's beverage area was involved too. So it's not just
and Red Moose. Don't forget Red Moose.
Red Moose, right down the road there. Is that like your favorite? Well, what's your favorite?
It's my favorite place.
What's your favorite beer over there?
My girlfriend and I own the building, so it's my favorite.
You own the building. Look, we're not pushing anything because then they ask you from YouTube are you pushing a product? No, we're not. It's just that if you want to see Eric hanging out with his girlfriend, I don't know why, but if you want to, you can check out the Red Moose.
That's a former football player of mine, and he and his wife bought a house from me in Goldston. And they're great people and everything. And it's her
and he
father.
Came to you for advice?
Yeah.
Okay, and you said you need to buy this building because that used to be
they're rented. They're leasing it or
Okay.
whatever. But his father-in-law's involved and his mother-in-law's involved and a bunch of family members involved. It's a great entrepreneurial story.
Well, you need to check it out because actually one of our chat list members, we got over 6,100 of them, he and his partner were playing his band, well, can you call a two-man band a band? Sure, okay. A two-man band, they were playing there, so I went over and did some videos, and you can find those on YouTube. So, yeah, we love what's going on in Pittsburgh. Question, with the hotel going up at Chatham Park, I mean, that's going to give opportunities for when events are going on in here that people can actually come into Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Do you see that also being able to, or facilitate maybe a hotel coming into Pittsboro proper?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, right now most of Pittsboro is under a chokehold because of our wastewater allotment. So we need more sewer capacity. there's more sewer capacity on the way. How much of that goes to Chatham? That's where we're competing with Chatham Park is the sewer allotment.
Can't you like get a big straw or something and redirect it? Yeah, actually, what Eric was talking about, I've actually talked to one of the town commissioners, and we'll probably have some more of that coming up in the next few weeks because the Pittsboro Town Board is trying to tackle that question because there are people who want to come, live, and work and build here, but they can't because of the sewer capacity.
Right. And then, you know, we know that needs to go to Chatham Park, but it needs to go to the rest of Pittsburgh as well.
Right. Well, won't a healthier, won't Chatham County, won't Chatham Park be a healthier development because of what's going on in Pittsburgh?
I believe so, absolutely.
Because I've been, when I worked for Verizon, I used to go to a lot of small towns, and you might have a town square and a historic building and a bunch of law offices and some. That was it, but Pittsboro isn't
downtown. Pittsboro has been incredible. We have an office in Siler City. We have an office at the Chapel Ridge Golf Course community. But downtown Pittsboro has been my bread and butter. We've been really happy to be in downtown.
All right. Hey, folks, we're a little bit past that half an hour, so we're going to wrap this up. If you enjoyed it, let me know. Eric, since he was nice enough to come out here and sit in the sun with me, why don't you tell folks if they want that single wide on 3 acres of land or that expensive $2.1 million property on the Wake County with 21 acres, how do they reach you?
Well, my plug would be for all 3 offices, rwcp.net. We have an office in Siler City, Chapel Ridge, and Pittsboro. We have a bunch of agents that will be happy to help you.
Right, and the other thing I just want to say, Eric's been part of the community for a long time. And yes, we're giving him a plug here at the end, but he's not doing that because of the plug here at the end.
No,
he just wants to let folks out there know what's going on in Chatham County. And actually, what was that question? What is there what going on in not Montclair, Goldston? You did a thing. This is what he does.
This is what. So we were talking about SEO, and I said one of my listing appointment things right now. Well, it won't work if I put it out on here, but. I asked my sellers to ask their phone, their Siri, are there any mountain lions in Goldston? And people go, are there any mountain lions in Goldston? And Siri goes, according to Eric Andrews, because I did a YouTube video on it. So it's a cheap way to show that we have some SEO or whatever. But
well, that's okay because next week we have one coming out is Bigfoot living south.
I've already done that. I did that.
You did one. Yeah. And actually I went to
bears,
UFOs,
ghosts. I do them all.
Well, he just checks what's trending and says, are they in Chatham County? Then all people ask Siri. Your girlfriend's name isn't Siri, is it?
No.
Okay, because we just want to make sure that she's for real.
Right.
And that she's not make-believe. Folks, if you get an opportunity, third Thursday of next month going out here at SoCo, Circle Merchants Association, anything else that's coming up that we need to be aware of? There's no Ag Day this year, which is unfortunate, but they should come back next year. I think the next pub crawl is going to be come Oktoberfest, so that's a while out. Anything else you're aware of?
Pittsboro Rotary is now the organizer for the street fair.
Street fair, okay, yeah, that's right. And if you want to be a vendor, I know they had it this past year after COVID, and they had a lot of open spots, so reach out to them. You can find that information on the Chatham chat list or just call Eric. And you can apply to be a vendor, and there's plenty of spots, and I think it was about half the spots were taken last time, but this
because of the COVID. But we already have a bunch of people signing up. It's going to be well run. It's going to be well run.
Are you saying it wasn't well run before?
No.
Okay,
no.
He's not saying that.
No.
That was me implying that.
No, there's just a lot more because of the Pittsboro Rotary Club. There's a lot of enthusiastic business leaders that are really going out there to make sure that we have some good. We're going to have good bands. We're going to have a lot more food. The food's going to be spread out throughout the area. There's going to be a lot of artists. It's going to be a good time.
Right. And if you haven't been there, look. If you haven't lived in Pittsburgh, if you haven't lived in Chatham County a long time, this is the kind of event you want to go to because you're going to connect with some of the old Pittsboro and some of the new Pittsboro. Sure. And that's the nice thing about Pittsboro because you kind of have a mix of the old Pittsboro and new Pittsboro. Al's Diner been sold to new owners, Vicky and her husband's, I said Vicky, didn't I? Instead of Nikki. Yeah. It's Nikki and her husband sold that off. And then I talked to her last week and she's like, well, we might think of doing something else. I'm like, yeah, just let me know when that happens. But if you need real estate, reach out to Eric. Thank you very much for watching. If you know somebody who would like to see this, share it with them, and we appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. I got to take that into the shade, and this can go off.
Got hot, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And I have to see, and I'm going to I'm going to keep yik-yakking for a little bit because I want to make sure I get saved. I don't want to lose it. There we go. Share broadcast. Oh, there we go. Okay, folks, we are now going to be ending this thing.